A few days ago, I had this moment of self-doubt. I was waiting for a call to speak to my book publisher. I've got a book coming up. And as I was waiting to jump on that call with her, I had all these voices and these gremlins in my head. And I started to feel, Tiff, she's coming on the call to say that my book is not good enough, it has to be rewritten, and all this stuff was just like bubbling in. And of course, when we got on the call, that wasn't the case. But isn't it weird how sometimes this self-doubt can just creep in out of nowhere? So on today's podcast, I really want to speak to this. I want to speak about those moments when we start to doubt ourselves, when we start to doubt our own skills, our own knowledge, our own ability, especially as entrepreneurs, as leaders, as coaches, because we are in this space where we're leading the way in so many ways. We are also holding space for other people. So there is this pressure for us to show up in a certain way. And how do we show up in this way when we're doubting our own self? Because when we start to doubt ourselves, it really does show in our energetics. When we doubt ourselves and we go on sales calls, it comes through, even though we don't think it does. It affects so many areas, and this is something that I really want to speak to, self-doubt. Welcome to Inner Power Game Podcast. This episode today is the beginning of our season 2, self-doubt. What is self-doubt? The weird thing about self-doubt is that it's not actually a real thing. It's based on a perception of how we think other people see us. It's based on a perception of what we think other people expect us to be. It's perceived, it's not real. So when I was waiting for that call from my publisher, and in my head, I was making up all this stuff. The truth of the matter is that wasn't real. It was basically just based on what I feel she has based her standard on. And she's going to say, well, this is the standard of, that this book needs to be, and you do not fit that standard. All the doubt I was having was not based on my actual ability. Because on reflection, after we've had the call, and I go back to my book and I read my book and I think, gosh, I put so many hours. And this book has been like 10 years in the making, and so much has gone into that book. And I love even just reading it back. So how could I have doubted myself while waiting for that call? And this is the thing about self-doubt. It's usually based on a perceived expectations. It's not based on the real, actual abilities and knowledge and things that we can do. But the implication and the way it affects us can be so big. The other big thing about self-doubt is that it also shows up as imposter syndrome. And I think this is actually the big thing here. When it really shows up as imposter syndrome, where we are in our work environment, whether you're in a career, whether you're running your business, whether you're leading teams, and we start to feel that we're a fraud, that we're going to be found out. I have so many instances where I've felt this, especially when I worked in tech. Even in past businesses, sometimes this feeling creeps up where you feel like, maybe I shouldn't be here, or maybe other people will think I shouldn't be here, and I'm not as good enough as they think I should be. That's the other thing. It's always that perceived expectation of other people. So this imposter syndrome is like this fear of people then thinking, actually, you're a fraud because you're not as good as we thought you were. You're not as amazing as we thought you're going to be. And we make up all these stories. And the fact of the matter is, all this actually stems from our own past experiences. So it could be our childhood experiences, could be past conditioning that we've had, it could be stories that we've told ourselves. We've sort of made up this image of what we feel we need to be, or the things that we think we're not good enough for. And when this all starts to creep in, they show up as this imposter syndrome. So self-doubt, it's like something that so many people talk about and something that we all feel at one point or the other. And you also feel so simple, like self-doubt. Well, I'm just doubting myself. And therefore, it should be easy to just clear that. But that's not the case because it just creeps in like very silently. And if we're not aware, we start to act and we start to stop ourselves from moving forward in the way that we could just because we have this energy of self-doubt. So let's look at all the ways that self-doubt can creep in silently and sabotage our success. Basically, I'm going to base it on the things that I see time and time again when I'm working with clients. And the first one is in this desire for things to be perfect. Like before we do anything, before we put anything out, we want everything to be perfect. I was working with a client just last week and we were working on videos specifically and podcasting, her podcast. And this perfectionism was already sneaking in. I could already see it. From my angle, I saw this amazing human being. She spoke so beautifully. Her story is beautiful. And the way she engages on video is just amazing. But when she looks at some of the videos that she's put out, all she could just see was the bits that she didn't like. She didn't look at it as a whole, that actually this is a video that engages with the audience in a very authentic way, in that she's coming across in a very authentic way. She couldn't see that. She could just see the bits that she didn't like. And because of that, she wanted this video to be perfect. And because she wanted this video to be perfect, then that video doesn't go out. And this is what it really comes down to. This idea of wanting everything to be perfect really stops us from actually moving forward. It stops us from taking action and, moving with the flow and creating momentum. Because we want to stop, we want to tweak a little bit, we want to change a little bit. And really that stops the momentum that we need for success. And momentum is one of the biggest things that, I speak about when it comes to energy work. Like, how do we create momentum? How do we ride momentum? Because when we know how to do that, that's when success really comes to us, like in ways that we say, I've had a quantum leap. So this idea of wanting everything to be perfect is that something that deters us and stops us from the level of success we can actually, get into. The other thing I see time and time again is also procrastination. Again, this is when we are holding back from doing something that we should be doing. And I always feel with procrastination, the real thing behind that is this fear of failure. And sometimes, it's not really obvious that this is the case. We just think, well, we don't have the motivation or it's not the right time. And yes, there's a good balance between the right time and, stepping into flow and not forcing things. But there is also when it's just procrastination. And at the core of it, again, what is happening there is this fear that if I put the thing out, if I do the thing, if I show up, I might fail. I might be seen as a failure. So we procrastinate, we don't do. Because if we don't put out, if we don't show up, there isn't any potentiality of failing. So we hold back. However, if we're not moving forward, if we're not doing, nothing moves as well. So this is the big one. And at the core of it is this, that we're doubting ourselves. We think we're not enough and we just keep holding back and holding back. And one of the ways that I see this, especially when I work with my clients, are when, people feel like they need one more course, they need one more training, they need one more of this. And again, it goes back to that wanting things to be perfect. They need to tweak something a little bit more. So they hold back from really doing what they should be doing and just take really small little steps because we're doubting that we are not good enough as we are right now to show up, to do, to bring the impact. And, this is really sad because we're perfectly perfect for that thing that is calling right now. It only takes that step. You take one step, and then as you take that step, you refine yourself in the process. You take another step, you refine yourself in the process. And before you know it, after a series of refinements, you're actually doing the thing. But if we're procrastinating and not doing the thing, there isn't even that opportunity to refine ourselves on the journey. And then this also leads to like playing small. I actually don't like the word playing small, but it is what it is, because essentially what that means is that we're not really going for our full potential that we could. We're not really going for the opportunities that are here for us. We're not really like becoming, taking those innovative steps that we could take. And we are playing it safe. We are playing in this like our comfort zone, but we're not really expanding into the potentiality of what we can be. And this is again because we doubt ourselves, that we doubt that we can do it. But if we allow ourselves to just like go a little bit further, to step out of that of comfort zone, you might surprise yourself. You might go, my gosh, like it's actually not, as bad or as hard, or, I'm not actually failing at this. I'm actually loving this. I'm rising into this. So this self-doubt is one of the reasons why we play small and we're not really going for things at the level of potentiality that we can really go for. And I feel it's very sad. Like if my last days, came and I felt I didn't really like live life the way I could have, think that would be one of my biggest regrets. So for me, I'm always looking to expand, to go out of my comfort zone, to experience different things, even when I'm not ready. And to quieten that self-doubt when it rises, to just go, shush, my little friend, and still go for things. And then the other one that I see, again, when I work with my clients, is this thing of constantly seeking external validation. So it could be while we are putting out, I don't know, a course, a training program, people want to know what other people think. Is this good enough? I mean, I get market research, but there is also the other side of things where we're just so scared. We don't trust our own knowledge. We don't trust our own intuition. We don't trust on our own decisions, that we have to ask people, what do you think? Am I pitching this right? So we're always constantly looking for other people's validation. Even when it comes to pricing, you want to know what people think. But the thing is, like, everybody have their own thresholds and their own levels at which they're playing at. So somebody might feel the pricing that you've based it on is actually cheap, while somebody else think it's expensive. So everybody have their own views, but what is really important is how you feel about what you're putting out. And this is the big thing here with this self-doubt. I feel that one of the things that helps us with self-doubt is this journey to actually knowing ourselves and trusting ourselves, and trusting in our own inner knowledge, in our own inner wisdom. This is actually the big thing here, because when you do, and even if you do the market research and you see, okay, this is where I should position myself, the underlying factor, the core of why you then make the decision really has to come from what you know to be true for yourself. If you find yourself that you always need that external validation in whatever you're doing, I'd like you to check in with yourself and just check in, like, am I doubting my own knowledge? Am I doubting my own abilities? Am I doubting my own intuition? Am I doubting my own inner wisdom? And why is that? And one other one, and this one I always find funny because I always play a game with my clients on this one. And this is like over preparation. Because I work with women who are leading change, they're coaches, they're in leadership, and sometimes they have to go onto bigger tables to speak. They have to go onto stages. And this idea of preparing for a speech like that, in the past, they've been very used to like over preparing. Yeah. Making sure that all the notes are there. And there's nothing wrong with that. This is great. It's great to prepare. But I always encourage my clients to leave space for magic. Because when we over prepare, it's either we over prepare that actually we don't even do the thing. So if you have a course that you want to put out, or you have a program that you want to put out, or you want to pitch for a contract, you might find yourself that if you have the tendency to over prepare, that you lose momentum, you lose the mojo, and you find you didn't pitch for that contract, you didn't pitch for that project, you didn't put the program out as you were supposed to, because you were over preparing. You were waiting for it to be perfect again. One of the areas that I used to catch myself on this was when I want to put out a program, or I want to put out a new offer. Now, I know how I work, and my ways usually, like as soon as I feel something, like I have to feel it, then I know that it's right. I get this intuitive download come through, and it feels so solid. And then I need to like put it out. But if I was to wait for this download to be perfect, what that would look like would be I would look into every detail of how I'm going to like serve clients with that program. I am going to try and make a sales page, and the sales page needs to be perfect and all this stuff. But by the time I do all these things, the momentum is gone. Remember, momentum is so key. The momentum is gone. I've lost something there. So with this over preparation, what is needed is our ability to, yes, be ready to put something out, or to show up, or to do whatever it is we want to do, but to also know that it doesn't have to be perfect. It's okay for there to be spaces, because those spaces is where the magic will come and like just settle in. So in this podcast, for example, I have a topic because that topic came to me because of something that recently happened, waiting for the book publisher and seeing that how that has affected my momentum, and then going, oh, I love this story. Let me use that as a podcast. And now I'm here speaking to you about it, not really knowing all the script, but I know the topic and I know some of the things that I want to speak to you about. And then I'm trusting myself that in between the gaps, they will fill themselves. And this is where the magic really comes. With anything that you're doing in life, the spaces for the magic is where people really connect with us. Like where not just people, but our ideal people, our ideal clients, our soul clients. This is where they really connect with us. Because in those empty spaces that the magic fills in is where really we show up with authenticity. We show up with our own inner magic. And the right person is not even about the words that you're speaking, really. It's a thing that they feel, a vibration that they feel. And it's in those moments that we truly connect to our true soul tribe. So we really need to leave space, be willing, confident enough to leave space for this magic. And self-doubt is one of the things that stops us from leaving space for the magic. Because if we're not trusting that we're ready enough, if we're thinking we've got to be perfect, if we're thinking we've got to over-prepare, if you're thinking if we put it out, it's not good enough, we're not going to trust ourselves to leave space for this magic to settle in and connect to the right people. Okay, so here is this beautiful mindset shift that you can use to clean out self-doubt whenever you see it creeping in. And this is this idea of, instead of feeling like you've got to be ready, instead of thinking I'm not ready, to just act as if you're ready, regardless of what. I have this motto, and so many people have heard me say it. I always say, I go first. I go first and the universe follows. I go first and the universe converges to meet my desire. I go first and everything follows after. Because I really believe this is how we create. This is one of the principles of creativity. We have to go first. So that means that we don't wait to be ready to do the thing. We act as if we're ready, and then we do the thing. I go first and the universe follows. And if you start to almost step into this sort of mindset where it's always like you go first before you're ready, you're going to find that you do so many more amazing things, and that self-doubt doesn't even catch up because you're going first before those doubts. And regardless of whether those doubts are stepping in, you're still going first. And you trust that everything will fit together. Yes, it sounds scary. Yes, it feels like you're jumping off a cliff sometimes and you're like, oh my God, what am I doing? But seriously, the more you do it, the more you're going to find that something has got you. Something has you. They've got you. You're protected. It's always working out for you. Yes, we might have to learn a few things along the way, but the things that we even learn is for our highest and greatest good. So, try it. Try and see how this works, where it's about, I go first and the universe follow. That you go first even before you are ready. Because when we start to really go for life in this way, there is no limits to how far you can go. Especially as you're an entrepreneur, as someone who's leading change, as someone who's coaching others, as someone who is mentoring other people, we have to go first. Our transformation is what inspires other people. Forget wanting to prove yourself with testimonials and wanting to prove yourself with this is how much money I made and wanting to prove and prove. No, if we go first and we are the transformation, other people see the transformation that we are constantly stepping into, and that is what inspires people. Just go, step in like you're ready. I'm ready. Go first and let things fall into place. It always does. So in my upcoming book, I gave a few tips about how you work with things around self-doubt and self-sabotage and imposter syndrome, those lines. And I just wanted to speak on a few of the tips that I gave because I think this will really help us. So the first one that I spoke about was stop the noise. And I really believe, especially in this modern day or this social and economic climate that we find ourselves, it's so noisy out there. And one of the biggest things we can do for ourselves is to stop the noise from the news, from social media, all that external noise. We really need to just find ways to bring them down. I'm not saying you don't have to watch the news. You do you do you. But pay attention to what you're listening to. Pay attention to what brings you down. Pay attention to what takes your confidence away. And make a mindful effort to quieten the noise. And one of the ways you can do this is, through meditation, for example. If you participate a little bit more in meditation, you will find that in those meditative states, you quieten the noise and you connect more with your own inner truth. So we are replacing the external noise with our own inner truth. Because when the noise is so loud, we cannot really hear our own inner truth. We cannot really hear our own intuition, and we cannot really hear the higher guidance that is actually here for us to help us move forward. And if you really want to tackle self-doubt, if self-doubt is something that has been stopping you till date, where you get a new job or you get a new role or you bring on teams or you have a bigger goal, but you feel, I cannot do it. I don't think I'm good enough and all the noise. If this has been a thing that's been stopping you, I truly believe one of the biggest things you can do is to quieten the noise. Quieten the noise so you can hear the internal navigation. And as you hear it, there's, the internal navigation, the wisdom, the knowledge. As you start to hear it more clearly, you also start to trust in it. And then this becomes your own navigation. And then you become a little bit more solid in how you're making your decision, and you have a little bit more trust in your own decision and going forward. This is probably the key. This is probably if you could take anything from this podcast, I think that would be it. The other thing that I mentioned in the book is about shifting our perspective, like our thinking and how we think. So instead of I cannot do this. I'm not good enough. To start to be aware of our own internal dialogue and shift how we see things. Again, this goes back to that mindset shift where I say, instead of thinking I'm not ready, to just go for it before you're ready. So the question you want to start asking instead of this could go wrong or this will go wrong is more like, what's the best that could happen? What's the best that could happen? So we're not looking at the negative, we're more looking at the positive. And the more we shift our perception and also our perspective towards the positive, the more we reinforce that within ourselves. And the more we reinforce that within ourselves, the more we're crystallizing it to our energetic aura, and the more we attract it. So again, this is a big one. Like, start to actively shift your perspective of life or in life. If you feel the internal dialogue is on the negative side, make a conscious effort to notice when you're having those and move it towards a positive reinforcement. And you're going to find that as you do, things start to shift and there is less chance of the self-doubt crippling in. So I really hope that this episode really helps you if self-doubt is something that's been stopping you moving forward. Because don't forget, it might sound so simple, the self-doubt, but really the implication is big. The implication is huge. It's stopping you from stepping into those big goals, stepping into those big, the roles, stepping into the lifestyle that you desire. It's stopping you from living the life that you are here to live. And that's the big thing. Like I said, I'm like this old woman in my dying bed. I really don't want one of my regrets to be that I didn't go for it, that I didn't live life as much as I could, that I didn't bring my impact to the world. I didn't bring my magic to the world because I was doubting myself, because that would be so sad, because I feel doubting myself. That was within my capability and my ability to shift that, and I didn't shift it. And now here I am, 90 something, at the end of my life, and I can't do anything about it. So for you, for me, for the world, I want you to bring your magic. I want you to bring all of you into this world, because we need it. And I don't want self-doubt to be the thing that's stopping you. If there's any way I can help, reach out to me via Instagram, because I'm always there. My handle is Folake, E-E-E, or you can leave me a message under this podcast and connect with me if there's any way I can help any further. And I think I'll also leave a link to a 5-day meditation challenge. It's an old one, but it's one of those meditation that I can't change. And this meditation is for women, and it helps you really connect back to you using your heart and your womb into your own inner wisdom. And like I say, this is the key, stepping into our own inner wisdom, inner knowing, and trusting that. This is where we start. So I'll leave a link here, and use that as the power tool to start to really clear away any self-doubt that you may have. Thanks for tuning in to the Inner Power Game podcast. And it's been my honor and my everything to show up on this episode. And I really do hope you're going to tune in for the next one. Please do like, do share, or give me a review on how you found this episode, because it encourages me to do more. And connect with me on social media if you want me to help you with anything. Thanks for watching once again, and this is the Inner Power Game podcast.